Before we start, I just want to know how many of you are MuleSoft expert and how many of you are Salesforce experts? So MuleSoft experts.
We should find a mule emoji. If we're mule, we need to do a horse emoji. Right? Okay, so there's mine.
Yeah, MuleSoft is horse emoji and Salesforce is a cloud emoji. I'm sure
there you go.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what expert are you? I'm a MuleSoft expert going towards learning Salesforce.
Me too.
Yeah. Excellent. So I see Janvi here is a MuleSoft expert. Whitney is MuleSoft. Ryan is MuleSoft, not Salesforce, very explicitly mentioned. I know Diane is also learning towards MuleSoft, so towards Salesforce because we are in the same class. Great. We have Narahari on MuleSoft as well. Perfect. So that's actually a very good thing because today we will be exploring more on the Salesforce side, and it's going to give you a slight preview on how you can easily cross over Salesforce. It's a learning curve and it's a learning in progress thing, but when it is not with any coding language. So instead of giving you a lot of slides, I would rather show you all the demo and show it all in action. So I just want to first discuss the use case that we'll be discussing, and then we'll just have the visuals all around and as we go. So today what we are talking about is in Salesforce org, you go and in Service Cloud, essentially. Oh, let's see who's here. So in Service Cloud, you must have been through use cases where you are creating cases for your clients and you have incident management request where you have to escalate your cases to the right parties and find the right parties. So how do you do that is what we'll be discussing today. And in the sense, we will use invocable actions through Salesforce flows. So what we'll do is, in any case, a Salesforce, anytime Salesforce case is updated, the status for the case, we will it will automatically invoke a Salesforce flow, which will then trigger MuleSoft integrations and escalate the case to Jira. I know it's a lot to fathom as I'm fumbling with my words. So let's just break it down quickly so I don't also fumble. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to create an account and then learn how to create a case. And then we'll see what happens when we change the status of the case and what flows it triggers in Salesforce. We'll then also learn how we can integrate MuleSoft with Salesforce and how we are able to call our integrations through Salesforce directly without actually using platform events or replays or any other outside calls to invoke our MuleSoft APIs. And after that, we'll see that it automatically creates a Jira case and update the status of our Salesforce flow. Since most of the people here are MuleSoft experts, I will go only briefly over the MuleSoft points, but I will go more in details over the Salesforce points so that we are able to get a better insight of what we're trying to achieve today. So any questions until here? Because let's just do a question and answer very friendly. Please feel free to come off mute and ask any question.
So Ryan, entertain us.
I was going to ask a question actually about Flow because I have a Salesforce subscription and I haven't started using Flow at all yet. So I don't know, but she's leaving, so I can't.
Go ahead, ask the question.
Ask it to who? just to
maybe I
everybody?
can answer. Maybe I can. We'll do a consensus
Well,
here.
I have Composer and I get when I want to use that, and I have Salesforce and I get when I want to use that. And only one time have I ever needed to use Flow, and it was one of my clients. Nobody in here was on that client, and we were trying to make something that generated platform events, and so that was the last time I ever used Flow. Was we had something, and the problem was Flow's scheduler only ran once a night. Like you couldn't get it to go every 10 minutes or every hour or something like that. You could only make it go once a night, period. So then we made a flow that was a record triggered flow, and we made another was a scheduled flow. And then I just it seemed like it was, I mean, as far as I could tell, it was more around updating Salesforce screens and stuff.
Yeah. What I have found, especially in the hyper automation space, is that Salesforce flows are, although they can interact, and you can interact, as you will see here, with outside external services, as far as the platform events and things that occur are in that organization. And actually, when teaching the hyper automation piece and even coaching people for the exam, what will drive you to use the Salesforce flows or anything you need to facilitate that's on the Salesforce or within that organization. So I think it holds true. I know that there are some discussions of that scheduler because I do believe that there is an ability, and I'll bring it up while Ismeet is doing the presentation. But I think that scheduling frequency that may have changed. I'll double check. I'll pull it up and take a look. So Ismeet, all you. Ryan had a question.
We were just talking about the use of Salesforce Flow, like when would be appropriate. And I was looking at one of the times I did use it. It was better than Apex for that, for sure. But Apex was more powerful. So one of the differences is the scheduling frequency we looked at. But I don't know if you wanted to, maybe since you're back, just kind of tell us what Flow's for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me share. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Maybe I'm just not a co-host anymore. Can somebody please make me a co-host?
Yeah, you'll be co-host.
Yeah, it's just technical difficulties. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Did I just overwrite him? Can y'all see?
I can see.
Perfect. Why is my Zoom acting out? Okay, let's. Yeah. So we were talking about different types of flows, right? Let's go back. So first of all, I would say that Apex and flows differentiate on the where you don't want to code. So if you don't know Apex, you just go for flows. And we have several types of flows. I'm not an expert on this, but I'll tell you as much as I've learned. I'm sure like Diane knows a lot more on it than me. So I would say you're always able to call out your MuleSoft application directly from Apex, and you can always change, just incorporate the URL and the username, password, and every thing that is needed. But it's always more difficult to go back and change it and maintain the code in Apex. You would rather just want to call out a flow and then do an invocable action through flow. Because in my experience, what I've seen is sometimes customers require so many customizations that the whole code in the whole org becomes so fragile that even if you do not make any changes, it keeps failing a lot of times. And I've seen that firsthand, that the developers have to keep on going and changing, and it doesn't change. And I would say just to keep it more clean and more manageable, you would do this, thinking from integration perspective. But yes, Apex is definitely more powerful. It allows you to do a lot more that Flow doesn't. So it's just a matter of best practices and common sense and where you want to use what, I would say.
Yeah, and I noticed also I don't think Flow has any way to do like source control or putting it in GitHub or anything, right?
No, I have not seen that. I mean,
It's just
all that is.
graphical. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
There
definitely not.
there is a command line interface, but I don't think it's got any connection to, you know, a resource like that, like Git or anything like that. But I do know there is command line interface that you can move some of the code from one, organization to another.
Yeah. That's easy. So it just depends. I mean, if we just go with recommended strategy, and I know they have templates and it allows us to create them, but I don't know. I mean, how much? Let's just keep it as a very simple, like composer like thingy, right? Because that allows you to do some things, but not all the things. So yeah. Let's go back to learning how to do stuff.
Whitney's hand is up.
Oh, hi, Whitney. Sorry, I should just move this. Yes. Hi, Whitney.
Hi. So I think one of the questions Ryan asked was, what's the difference between using Flow, Salesforce, doing something in Salesforce Flow versus Composer? Or he made a mention to that. And I've kind of been thinking about it. And for a long time, I've been thinking about this. So I just want to make a statement, and I'm hoping you can validate if this thinking is correct. So I was thinking with Salesforce Flow, all of this is embedded in Salesforce. So all your automation that you're going to do is tightly coupled with Salesforce. But let's say Salesforce goes away and you still want to have these automations. You can put it in Composer and you can swap out your Salesforce integration for a different CRM. I don't know if that's the value proposition of going with Composer over Salesforce Flow. So I'd like to know your thoughts.
You're right in the sense that it does not allow us to integrate with external platforms very easily. It's very tightly coupled within Salesforce. In my experience, I have used flows just to invoke actions within Salesforce. I am able to integrate the integrations through RPA Composer and MuleSoft, but I'm not able to integrate things with external platforms until I create them as an external service and we do not have out-of-the-box connectors to configure them. Diane, I think you have something to say because you came online, like on video. Do you have something to add on? Because I know you have much more experience on flows than me.
Yeah, the specifically, there are integrations. In other words, if we have a use case, and like in Ryan's case, he was saying they really wanted something to happen more than just once a day, right? And so there is a way to incorporate using Composer that the minimal time of that scheduler is 15 minutes. We could also run it through Mule and do an integration and trigger something to occur through Mule. But the question would be, does the client have those products? Are we talking about them having to add additional product lines to their account that maybe cost more than it's worth as far as that's concerned? If you're limited to just a Salesforce org, you're going to be limited to that happening, once a day, unless you do it based on something changing in that record or in that case or opportunity, whatever it is. And that may be, a possibility. But I found that one you were talking about, Ryan. So it's kind of like there's many ways to get something done, but with the tool set of Salesforce alone, you can see, with the screen flow, or you could do the scheduled triggered flow. That's the one I was just talking about that Ryan was saying is just once a day, and that kind of locks you in. And then there's the platform, see the schedule. The minimal amount of time is once on a time frame there.
You cannot just daily or on job, basically. It's just fixed frequencies, right?
Right. And then, so there, as far as that's concerned, that does limit things, but there are other, you could do it based on a record changing, and that would be like immediately. That would be near real time as far as that would be concerned. And that would be a record triggered flow or where something is updated, and that could be a status update.
Yeah, I actually was, when I was playing around, I saw a way. Let me just quickly check. I know we're not doing this. This is not a part of it. We're jumping way ahead of what we're supposed to.
This is what a study group is. You never know. You could start in one direction and
Yeah, I know. Let's
just
just
to make them fun.
Okay. Add a scheduled paths. I can add a scheduled paths, add a time source, right? When I want it to schedule, and then I can actually write an offset number, and I can trigger it after a couple of minutes. So maybe this is a different way to do it to invoke your flows. And then you can always add like invocable actions here and call a subflow and then call the actual invocable actions. So this is also one way you can do. Instead of doing a scheduled flow, do a scheduled path to run.
That you could also do that off of not only a record being created, like say you already had a record created, but you want, so you could change even a record update, and in the record update field of a status, like it went from one status to another, bing, that triggers, kind of like what yours is going to do. Yours is a status change that triggers. Yeah.
It's like, I think you can do that, but it's just how much we can do. I've never explored those options yet. So, okay, let's go back to what we want to do, unless there's any more questions. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead. Let's just start by navigating a little bit around Salesforce org. I just wanted to know, with the raise of hand, are you all comfortable navigating around the Salesforce org and creating your own accounts and cases, and then we can move ahead? Or would you like me to show how you do it? So everybody's comfortable enough to create their own cases and accounts, raise a hand. I mean, hand emoji.
Yeah, show us. That's good.
Ryan is comfortable. Okay,
give us a show. We've had some people ask to see it. Janavia said she's not comfortable. So yeah, let's check it out.
Yeah, let's do it. So let's just go to home. So when you're in Service Cloud, this is what your home looks like. And when a sales rep will come in, they'll start by creating accounts for your customers, because they may or may not exist. So what you're going to do is navigate to the account tab, and you can just click new, and then just fill out whatever information you have. I'm just going to fill out the necessary information because I'm too lazy to do everything. And nothing else is necessary, but it depends from your org to your customers' org, because they might have account number, no, not account number, but they might have a ticker symbol, which is a required field, or contact information, which is a required field. Employees, anything can be done. They can also want the customer priority to be required. So how important is your customer really? You have to choose and rate them. But with that, you can just fill it out. It's pretty simple because of the UI, and just save it. And then it creates your account for you. And then as you move forward to start adding a contact information for the account, opportunities linked to your account, the cases linked to your account, it will start showing up here. You can do that either from here directly, or you can go to your cases, and then you can link your account to your cases and contacts. So let's just do it from here for easiness. And I can just do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. That's my phone number. And my email is abc@gmail.com. And what's my first name and last name? So oops. Oh yeah, I sort of already did that. So let's just do. Oops. And yeah. So let's just add whatever just the required information is and hit save. So once you save it, you'll see a contact is created. And if you just want to navigate and update the contact, you can just click on the contact information. It will take you to the contact tab, and then update whatever you want to add. And you can always go back to your account from here and your opportunities and cases. So the view is very much similar. It's just how you can navigate from one point to another. So think of it as a database and how all the different tables are connected, and you've created a view out of them for your understanding and your best needs. And you just keep on updating the views, and however you can always update this screen as well. We just learned this today in the class. So you can always update the screen and make it look like how you want it to look whenever you want it. I'll not go deep into that because I just learned it and I'm not a pro at it today. And then for cases, you can do the same thing. You can either go directly and create a case, or you can go inside the account. In a usual day-to-day life, you'll just navigate all these things from within an account and go from one step to other. So once you've created the contact, you might want to just go and it's just not, yeah. You might just want to go and add a case as well. And the case can be new case. Where did it origin from? Maybe it came through web and you had an information coming in and you're just creating all of it. What is the type? It can be mechanical structure. Depends. All these fields basically depends on how your org look like and what are your needs. All of this can be customized. So think of it just as a web page or web page to store all the information behind the scenes in a database. And then just hit save and it creates a case, and you can also link opportunities similarly. And it's just how you navigate it. One thing which I'll tell you, which have been very helpful to me in order to understand Salesforce, is to add a Google Chrome extension. So I'm going to send this link in the chat. So whenever you are trying to understand your way and learn how you can navigate through things, and maybe let's say this is my view, but I want to really see what all fields are available, because when you integrate your Salesforce with MuleSoft, you don't integrate with phone website. This is not how your fields look like, and you need to get the actual API name and not the label. And how would I do that is it's not added here. Wait. Because it's my incognito, I can't show you here, but I can show you here. Sure, why not? I'll just show you. Oh God, something is not working for me. So this is an org, right? And you can see that here also I have accounts, which is empty. But if let's say I had accounts and I really want to get a field and API name, how your inspector works is it's a small arrow on the right, and it's a Salesforce inspector. It allows you to log in as another user if you have the username, password, credentials. And it also allows you to see any record you want, any object, and just right click and do show all data. It shows everything, and you can just find all the labels and API field names and everything, what type of the field it is, very easily without struggling through going to setup and finding the actual object and finding how if the field exists or not. And sometimes it just doesn't show up in the search. And other cool things you can do with it is do a data export. So I can literally write my SOAP queries and do an export, and it'll show me everything. And just copy it or export it in JSON, CSV, and Excel format, and directly data load in another org, migrate it, whatever I want to do, I can do it. And it also allows me to data import. So you can just import it and then download Metadata Explorer. It's a very powerful extension, and I learned it on my first day of exploring Salesforce, and I've never gone back. Any questions on this? And then we'll move forward.
Yeah, where was I? Was that in the class? That is very cool.
It's not in the class. Before? I learned it at my job when I started first.
Oh my gosh.
Somebody gave me the insights.
Excellent tip. We need to put that as a tag on this video. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a
Awesome.
very good tool.
Yeah.
You'll love it. You can explore as much as you want, and you can do multiple things here as well. It allows you to change it. And then when you write your query, let's say I'm not proficient in writing SOQL, what I can do is I can just do a comma and it gives me all the available fields, and it essentially is writing it for itself.
Oh my gosh. That is very cool.
And then just remove the comma. Remember to remove the comma. And then you can just get everything. And you can also do relational database. So let's say now I want a contact field. If it is, I think in here it's not related, but you need to have the objects related, maybe cases. No. If your account and case is related through external IDs, it will allow you to do contact, and then you do dot, and then it gives you all the information for contact as well. So it's not related here, but if it is, it can even allow you to create query relational objects. And it's a very, very cool feature to do. And you can
I'm
do a lot
loving
of
it.
it. But
I'm
I'm not
doing
going to
it.
spend the whole day here.
I know, but that's awesome.
I know.
I'm installing it as we speak.
Yep. Account maybe. Yeah, Shubham, I'm already querying an account. I just wanted to show them how to do relational. It's not allowing me. I know we've talked.
Yeah, account
Maybe
and
it's
dot,
just,
maybe, yeah, account dot, and then you can go to the other object for contact.
let's try. I don't think it works like that. No, it's
Ah,
just going to give me account. So when you do next object dot, it gives you
Okay.
the fields of that object. So it's okay.
Yes,
Does
thank-
does Edge have it?
I'm not sure. I know
I'll
Google
check.
Chrome has it.
I'm curious, yeah.
I
Because I
don't-
work go ahead.
Yeah,
Shubham.
it's a Chrome extension, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I don't think so. It's on Edge.
I
Yeah.
never use anything else than Chrome. so-
I know. I agree. I agree.
Okay, let's go back to our study thing. So yeah, I showed you
Um,
how you can just go and navigate your fields and everything. So it's also very useful when you're doing your integrations and you have to create your own SOQL queries to query any object. And you don't have to rely on your Salesforce buddies to, oh, please, can you give me how to create a query? You can just do it.
Can you just quickly, please, show me how did you get there? I just installed it as well, but how did you get to?
So just reload it, and then there's a small arrow on the right.
Let me see.
Just click it.
Uh,
Reload it, or maybe just sign out and sign in again.
Uh-huh.
And then it should give you a small arrow. It does not work in incognito.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Perfect.
And then the add-on, what did you? Oh, got it. Okay, perfect. Let me
So
try.
FYI, there is one in Edge. I'm adding it to Edge because I go between two different windows sometimes. If I have two orgs up, I have them one in Google and one in Edge. So I am adding it on Edge right now too. So cool.
Yep. I was surprised that not a lot of people know about it, because at my last company, everybody just worked on this and survived on this. So, oh, we are really out of time. Sorry. Let's go back quickly and see what we want to see today. So,
Sorry.
no, it's okay. So we have done accounts and contacts and cases. So in my case, I have already created a case, and this is the case which I created. And what happens is whenever I update where is my status? Let's say right now it's new. What I've done is when I've created a flow, whenever the status updates, it should trigger MuleSoft, and then it should update every information in Jira. So let's just see how we connect to MuleSoft first, and then we'll go in a little bit more deeper into what our flows and how we work with it. So click on this. You have to click on setup and do go to setup. So it gives you a different version where you actually have object manager, where you actually go and configure stuff. So in here, you just search for MuleSoft, and it gives you MuleSoft services. Once you're here, it allows you to log into your Anypoint platform. And from here, you can import all your services which are already published to your Exchange. So your services and your APIs needs to be published on Exchange, otherwise you cannot import it. So make sure you have a API manager, API instance on top of your application. And then through that, it's connected through auto discovery. And then through that, you can always import it. So if I go and click on login US Cloud, because I'm in US region, it prompts me to log in. And I should be able to log in and it should work. I am contemplating, yeah, Diane, yesterday, after we went through all the technical thing, it started giving me the snag here as well, but it's working, so it's fine. You should not see this. There's some technical difficulty with our org. It's just not letting me connect, but you should be able to connect. And once you connect, it gives you some sort of information here, which says name, credentials, and URL, which I'm not able to show you, unfortunately. And once that is done, you can always go and click on import, and it takes you to Anypoint Exchange and allows you to search for your service. I did that. I imported it. I imported my service, which was SG May 31. This is the label that I gave. I'm so sorry I'm not able to show it to you here because of whatever reasons.
I will put it in the chat so you all can see what it looks like, because the one I'm working off of shows it.
Yeah.
So it's what hers should look like.
Yeah, it doesn't. But because I was able to import my actions already, you will see that my MuleSoft actions include a post create resource and a get sync resource. This is the actions. This is the API operations that I imported. And within that API, you can also choose which operation you want to import. So you can choose some and not pick some. It's totally possible. And it shows you what all input parameters it requires and what can be the output parameters. So if you have any API which is a post and which should ideally be taking input parameters, you can configure them in your flow and send them through. Perfect. Then once you're able to connect, it has something called named credential, which is automatically created if you go and connect your MuleSoft through the way we did, through the way I showed you. But when you go in, it essentially is just, the label and what URL you want to hit. This URL is different for each API you're calling. So I wanted to call this API. I changed it. Earlier, it's just platform. It's just pointing to Anypoint platform so that you can import all the APIs that you need. So you create your own name credentials for each service, and then you can configure it. You can also configure the external credentials. So here we just have basic auth with MuleSoft basic auth policy applied, and it just takes MuleSoft basic auth credentials so that it can invoke. Just like that, username, password, and you can invoke it. So any questions until now? Okay, perfect. So this is how you connect your MuleSoft application. And as you saw, my application is connected and my resources are available for me to invoke through my flows. So the next step, what we'll do is we'll actually stay here and type flows. And within process automation, it takes me to flow. And as you can see, we have many flows available. You can just click on create flow and it will take you to flow builder and choose whatever kind of flow you want to create and create your flows. It's very much like MuleSoft, where you just configure stuff and it's no coding. So just MuleSoft's very simple MuleSoft flows, simpler than Composer with no configurations, basically. Sorry, no coding, basically. So you can choose whatever flow you want, and it also has some templates and flow orchestration and other stuff. We'll just go directly to what we have already built today and take it from there. So I built a flow called invoke MuleSoft external service. Yeah. It is a record triggered flow. So what it does is this flow will always trigger on the object case. I have chosen whichever object I want it to trigger on. And because my use case is that every time the case object is updated, the status for the case object is updated, we will invoke the flow. So we say that whenever the record is created or updated, it works on that. And then what I've done is I've invoked a subflow within it. How do you do it? You have a plus sign here, and it allows you to add multiple elements. So you can either update triggering record, send email alerts, do actions, call subflows, create custom errors, invoke any logic. So I chose subflow, and it take me to a window like this, which allows me to create a subflow. I'm just going to show you quickly because it does not take a lot of time. So it allows me to choose what reference flow I want to call. And in my case, I had already created my subflow before my main flow. So it's just opposite to MuleSoft. You usually go with creating your main flow first and keep on adding. But here you have to first be ready with your subflow and then go call that subflow within another flow. So you think of it as creating a wrapper on top of your actual logic, right? So why are we calling subflow instead of directly calling an invocable action? You see my invocable action is available here, and I can actually choose my resource. The reason for that is a record triggered flow, which is an auto launch flow, does not allow us to call actions directly, external services directly. So if I add my external service directly here, it will fail and it will not allow me to do it. So it will just give me errors. That's why we had to create a subflow. So let's go in and see what did we create in subflow so that it's also pretty simple. I just created an auto launch flow. And as I showed before, added an action and chose my action and then click done. And that's all. And it just gave me this. So as you can see, it has no configurations. It's just create Jira, which is the label. And it's actually syncing me to my external service. And if I want to assign variables, let's say you have any input variables that you want to add, you can always create them, assign them. No, not assign them. Okay. Wait. You have to go select elements. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
On the left-hand side, click out of that.
Yeah.
Click in the canvas, go to the little button on the far left, upper left. Click that.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your resources. You can add your variables.
Yeah. You just add your variable, whatever type it is, and then send the input through that. So it's also simple. It's just a thing that it seems intimidating to us because we have not exploded, but it isn't. We have done much more in MuleSoft. So I added that, and then I'm invoking this to my other flow. And when I run this, it asks me about when I run this, it will trigger my MuleSoft application, and we can go in and check how it's triggering. And then it updates the Jira. So let me show you quickly what I'm doing in my MuleSoft. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a contact information. So when I created my account, I did not add any contact information. What I did was I'm assuming it to be taking it through a database or any external storage. And I'm getting the information, adding my contact information in that particular account ID. So this account ID needs to be sent when we are invoking this MuleSoft application. So it has to be an input parameter. And then we create the contact. Then we will create the issue in Jira, which is a very standard connector. It's available for free. So you just make sure that you select the select category Jira connector, because there are two. One is paid and one is not paid. One requests you to get a license, and I got stuck at it. So it asks for a license, and then it'll run fine on your local, but it will not deploy on Cloud Hub until the license. So make sure you are choosing the one which is created by MuleSoft organization, not MuleSoft partner or customer. You can get this information, the how to structure your payload on Jira documentation. So you don't have to worry. This is a particular format for creating issues. There are multiple things you can do in Jira connectors. So every payload looks different. And it's available on the Jira documentation. So you don't have to worry about it. And the configuration is pretty simple. So it just right now, because of I have create issue connector, the configuration just requires me to, because I'm doing basic auths, I can always do OAuths. It's just my email, my API token, which is available on, you can create your Jira ticket token. And then your base URL, because every base URI is different for each Jira instance. So we don't have a common, like we have for Salesforce, that will automatically go and connect. And then once that's done, it's gonna upsert the contact information. What it's gonna do is it's gonna connect the case object with my account object. So I'll show you in a minute how it's done, but what it requires is the case number and the contact ID. So if I go here and I select my contact, oops, this is not there. If I go here and I select my contacts, this ID, that is a unique ID for contact. This is what you need to send when you're upserting in the case, and it needs to be added. So it's showing my information because it has that external field added in behind the scenes in your Salesforce. So it's both ways. Let me show you. Actually, wait. Let me just... Give me 1 second, I'll log in and I'll show you exactly what I meant by adding foreign keys. With the raise of hand, can you all tell me you all understand the concept of foreign keys within Salesforce, and how you have to relate your objects when you're inserting and upserting your Salesforce records? You all do, right? So it's just the same. If you all do, then I'll just skip this part, because I'm sure you all know it. If you don't, I am happy to show you. Okay. So yeah, you just do that, and then it just connects. And then after that, it should create my Jira object and update my status. So let's just see it in action, because we are running really behind time, thanks to me.
It's okay. Sometimes we go beyond an hour. Do you know that? Sometimes we're an hour and a half of a study group. So don't be too rushed. And I know you have things on your mind elsewhere, but it's all good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what I'm doing here is I'm just debugging this flow. So because I have not activated it right now, it's gonna run in debug mode. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do run immediately. I can configure on what case I want it to run and when I want it to run. So right now I want it to run on update. I'm gonna search for my case. Which one is it? Yeah. So I'm going to run it on 2.6 because I have configured my values according to that. So I'm going to run it on 2.6, and you see what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the status from new to working. So I can always implement these conditions that whenever the status change from working, new to working, it should escalate my case to Jira. And then I'm going to run it. What it's going to do is it's going to call my subflow, as you can see, it called my subflow, which is called MuleSoft subflow. And then it gives me the output that my run was successful and I have no errors, and gave me what all IDs I worked on and what was the status code. So if I should go back, I should ideally be able to check if my Jira was created, and it was. So you see this was created. That's what I had as my heading. I did not add any description because this is a test task. You can add multiple things. You can also create a custom fields where you are actually linking your Jira ticket to your Salesforce and send the case ID through, and it will show you. And you can always change the priority. It's all very customizable. And you see it was created 31 minutes ago now. So that's how you are able to connect to your Jira from Salesforce to Jira with a lot more complicated use case without actually relying on platform events or callouts, and just invoke all of this through your Salesforce flows. Why it's very good is because any admin or any less technical person is able to freely create your Salesforce flows, and you do not need a lot of customization to write Apex and make the callouts, right? And you don't have to worry. So it's a very good tool for beginners like us who are trying to transition into Salesforce and learn how we can, use our pre-built integrations into making any use case happen. This is essentially also a very nice example of hyper automation, because in your hyper automation class, this is exactly what you're doing. You create your MuleSoft integrations, you create your Composer integrations, you create your RP bots, and then you link all of them internally and invoke everything from Salesforce flows through Salesforce orchestration. So you do exact same thing of configuring your external services, your named credentials, API services, and making the call out to make all of that happen. And that's what is hyper automation. So it's also a very good introduction to your hyper automation class, which Diane teaches. So I see we have a question. Off topic, can we create an external ID field for custom field, not a record, on an object? Yes, you can do that. So if you go back and go into your setup, so external ID is basically just a field identified to be able to integrate through MuleSoft or any other. So it's a unique value. It has to be unique. But if I go in my object manager, there are two options. Usually the ID is set to be as external field, but an admin can make any other custom field as an external field if that's unique and remains to be unique throughout and time, whenever time comes. So you can just do that.
The use case that I really have in mind is that we have, for example, two different systems that we're doing integration for. We're taking like a CSV file and then we're sending it to Salesforce. And say the CSV file has 40 different column names. Is there a good way for us to kind of skip the transfer message between this is the CSV file field name and it should be mapped to this specific Salesforce field name, and then just pretty much in Salesforce maybe create on every field an external ID custom field that has the CSV field name, that when I do an insert probably or an upsert, it could just understand to take that external ID on that field and then just do the insert.
Yeah, I know you can do that. So if you already have CSV files, you can just use data loader, where you just have to write the names of the fields corresponding in Salesforce and just use data loader to insert all of that. It can be done in one go. Or you can also do inspector. I'm not sure if you can do like I've never done it with inspector, but I've seen this happening with data loader. So let's say you have a CSV file You just have to get the field name, actual field name for each field, and create a new column for field name and just write them. And you can get it easily from the Salesforce inspector, right? And just insert it through data loader. So just import the complete CSV if there's no transformation that is needed.
Would that work for like ongoing integration? I'm not familiar with data loader, but
Yeah, it's just data. It's exactly like it sounds. It's just you loading data into Salesforce. If you do not have any transformations and you just need to upload the data, you can just do it through CSV. Yes, Whitney.
Data loader does have limits, so
Yeah,
you'll have to read the fine print for that. Otherwise, you can do bulk inserts and do like Salesforce jobs through a mule flow. Sorry, David's in the background too, so.
Madonna, is there a mule integration involved there too?
yeah, it's through MuleSoft.
Okay.
Like just-
So an idea to do is have those, let Mule do some of the transformations there on that. If you, as Ismeet has on here, the Mule fields are also integrated as well. So that may be a way of doing it also. You know what we ought to do is we ought to make it be a use case and we present it here.
Yeah.
So let's play around with that. Let's do it. Let's do it.
We're gonna do
Yeah.
something with data coming up. And so
Something in data coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
with
But I
Phil and
think,
Sonia.
we could do some offset off of this to have like a work session. Let's try to do that. It'd be cool to see. Couple different ways. Did you know there's going to be a couple different solutions
Mhm.
ultimately for, and what is going to be like the most reasonable one and the best one to manage, because one of the things they talked about in the data cloud class today was to refrain from doing a lot of custom objects, because when a new version is updated, you're going to lose a lot of things. And they call it, what do they call it? Ismeet, what was he saying? Data cloud Thursday or something like that?
Yeah. Data Class Thursday, it updates with the new summer release, with the new releases. Not something.
And you'll lose certain things or they'll make some modifications. And so he was saying to kind of, even with rule sets and other things, he was saying kind of lean into the out of the box stuff so that you're not taken by surprise. But yeah, I think we should explore that a little bit. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that brings us towards the end of the presentation and demo. If anybody has anything that they want me to deep dive into, I'm happy to. Otherwise, yeah. Any questions? Whitney, your hand is still raised. Do you have questions?
Yeah, so just quickly, when you did the flow in Salesforce and then you had call MuleSoft flow, is that like a real flow in MuleSoft?
No. So if you see, I have two flows. One is invoke MuleSoft external flow and then subflow Jira.
Mhm.
So if you open this, this is the subflow, which I am referring to the main flow.
Mhm.
And in here, I am invoking my external service as an action. So what you see here, this call out, is my real flow, which will be invoked in MuleSoft. So if I go and show you my MuleSoft logs, you'll see the logs of it been run. So my application is deployed.
Mhm.
And in here, I have two flows. And if you see, it ran.
That's because you had it like as an endpoint and then you called it from Salesforce.
Yes. So
Okay.
let me show you. If I go and show you my named credentials, my named credential was invocable flow that I created. And if you see, it's pointing out to that flow. It's actual Cloud Hub address. And the endpoints are being used from you see, it's the base URL, and then my endpoint is defined in my external service, which is get, sync, and post create resource.
Mm-hmm.
This automatically is taken. I had to define my name credential to point it to the right API. And
Do the drop down on the far right over there on those output parameters for a second for me.
Yep.
Yeah, and show more details. Yeah. Okay. So the coolest thing about a lot of this is notice what has been defined here from that endpoint is populated inside the Salesforce. Even some of the fields that are defined in your data types are also populated. Those are treated as an Apex class inside of Salesforce. So those integrations are pretty powerful. And that's why I'm wondering about defining your fields in a mule flow to manage the CSV field names. And it'd be neat to see that imported. And all of this is being done on trial accounts. The mule trial account, the Salesforce developer. Don't go for the lower one. There's a lower one that's kind of doesn't have the functionality. But so it's worth experimenting with and recreating the steps that you saw as Meet go through earlier on those integration pieces. And then they're present on the Salesforce side to use them and map them. As Meet go to flows again, and there's an assign element, hit the EMS patient flow. And in this particular flow, we're taking and click on the patient assignment, if you would, for me, please. Yeah. And edit. Yeah. And on the right there's your mapping. So it's mapping now it's using the loop value of the contact ID, first name, last name, birth date, business phone. Is using the loop value of that. So you're going to see the loop value, but it's actually getting that from the get patients action above. And the get patients action in that case is bringing in all of that patient information. So this is where you can do that mapping you're talking about and then create records at the bottom down there that are actual records on Salesforce that you pulled from your CSV file from your Mule app. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of creates them in there. And we could, like I said, I think it'd be cool to do a proof of concept. Yeah.
It gives more visibility and time to, understand what we're doing. But yes, what we saw today was extremely simple examples of flows. You can do a lot more for sure. And as you see in this one, we have defined stuff. So maybe, Diane, I think you should do a next classes hyperautomation.
I think what we need to do is just do truly like a study group.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a study group, but what I mean is where we actually, let's try it. Let's see, so, Madonna, if you want to set up the mule part with the key, with the fields that you need, and we can collaborate, I know you and I chatted on LinkedIn and stuff, but to collaborate and bring together the mule piece. And then I could, walk you guys through joining it to a Salesforce org and creating those flows. I'm game.
Yep.
Okay.
That works.
Cool. And then we can share it as Whitney's like, hey, we've got a study group coming up. We could do this or that. We sure can. But we got some hands up there. So I think Whitney, yours might have been up there first.
Yes.
Yes. So I've not taken a hyperautomation class. So this is like my first time really seeing Salesforce Flow in action. So I learned a lot. So thank you, Ismeet, for that. But now my head is thinking from like a consultant standpoint. MuleSoft has recently changed their pricing model. Now, instead of being priced versus cores, we're going to be priced versus flows. And so I can possibly see this being a good way to save clients money that have Salesforce you know, if they're doing Salesforce integrations, trying to do as much as possible in Salesforce and then leveraging Mule for the things that Salesforce just cannot do, you know, some of those special use cases. And so I would like to see, this is Diane, I would like to see, based on hyper automation, your experience for Salesforce clients that have MuleSoft and, you know, Salesforce, how they can limit their flows and what should be in Salesforce versus what should be in MuleSoft and stuff like that. Because I'm pretty sure it's in a class. Not everybody's taking a class, but from a customer and a partner standpoint, when you talk about pricing, I think people would be really interested in that.
Yeah.
From, you know, an architectural standpoint, not just a dot, you know, like a table of when to use what, but actually applicable use cases.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. You know, there's another avenue too. And we've got another hand up too. We want to make sure we get to her. Another avenue also is using Composer. Composer integrates really nicely also with CSV files. We can, you know, so anyway, there's a lot of different directions we can go there. I think it'd be cool to see different ideas, you know, and then compare them, you know, and go from there. But
let's do Composer and flows next time. Composer flows and flows next time, and integrate with, I don't know, anything. And that is like, that gives us more hands-on. You can also do it. It can be a follow along.
yeah, I got another one too. RPA will read Excel files.
I know.
To a
I was
bot.
going there. It's exactly like what we showed in our TDX presentation, where we used RPA to automate the Excel processing and load everything into Salesforce. So yeah.
Yeah, there's another one. Then we could do a price tag. How much did this, you know, this solution cost X amount? This solution.
Yeah.
You're laughing, but that's important, right?
It is. It is. Yeah. Naharari, I know you've had your hand up for a while. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hello.